Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling small? Or maybe you felt a sudden, unexplainable urge to say yes to someone, even though every bone in your body wanted to say no. Most of us like to believe we are in the driver's seat of our own lives. We think our choices are ours. Our feelings are ours. But what if I told you that there's an invisible language being spoken all around you, in boardrooms, in dating, even at your family dinner table, that you can't hear? It's called dark psychology. It is the art of the invisible string. It's the science of making people do exactly what you want while letting them believe it was their own idea. Today, we aren't just summarizing a book. We are pulling back the curtain on the most dangerous tools ever developed by the human mind. By the end of this video, you will never look at a friendly smile or a helpful co-worker the same way again. You will see the strings. And once you see them, you can finally cut them. Before we dive into the tactics, we have to talk about the man behind the curtain. The book we're breaking down today, Dark Psychology and Manipulation, notably explored by William Cooper. William Cooper come from a perspective of radical awareness. He realized that the world is divided into two types of people, the predators and the prey. The prey are the ones who get gaslit in relationships, passed over for promotions, and drained of their emotional energy. The predators are the ones who understand the dark triad, the psychological blueprint used by history's most successful and most dangerous figures to climb to the top. How this book helps you. The author's goal is simple, to give you a shield and a sword. 1. The shield, to recognize when you're being manipulated in real time, so you can stop it instantly. 2. The sword, to understand how to use these same principles ethically to get what you want in your career, your social life, and your negotiations. If you ever felt like a pushover, or if you're tired of being an emotional punching bag for toxic people, this book is your manual for taking your power back. Now, before we get into the 40 covert techniques that will blow your mind, I have a quick question for you. I want you to be honest. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt like someone was gaslighting you, but you couldn't prove it? Just type yes or no. I read every single one of these because I want to know who is in this room with me today. Also, if you're a fan of deep diving into the human mind, the kind of stuff they don't teach you in school, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We are building a community here of people who refuse to be sheeple. We're here to master the game of life, and I want you on the team. Ready? Let's go deep. Imagine for a second that you are walking through a crowded city street. You see hundreds of faces. To you, they're just strangers. But to a master of dark psychology, that crowd is a keyboard, and they know exactly which buttons to press to play a melody of their choosing. We often think of manipulation as something evil people do in movies. We think of villains in capes. But the reality is much more chilling. Real manipulation happens in the light. It happens over coffee. It happens in the I love you from a partner or the I'm just looking out for you from a manager. This book isn't just a collection of tricks. It's a map of the human flaw. We all have glitches in our brain, shortcuts we take to make decisions. Dark psychology is simply the study of how to exploit those glitches. Section 1. The dark triad, the DNA of the predator. Before you can spot a lie, you have to understand the liar. The book starts by introducing us to the dark triad. Think of this as the unholy trinity of human personality. These aren't just mean people. These are individuals whose brains are wired differently. 1. The narcissist, the mirror thief. We live in an age of ego, so we think we know what a narcissist is. We think it's the guy at the gym checking his biceps. But the book digs deeper. A true narcissist doesn't just love themselves. They are starving for validation. They have no internal battery. They have to plug into you to get their power. This is called narcissistic supply. How they manipulate. They use a technique called mirroring. In the first week of meeting them, you will feel like you've met your soulmate. Why? Because they're literally reflecting your own personality back at you. If you love 90s rock, they suddenly know every lyric. If you're passionate about animal rights, they're suddenly a vegan. It's not a connection. It's a trap. They build a false sense of safety so that later, when they start to devalue you, you'll work twice as hard to get back to that perfect person you thought they were. 2. The Machiavellian, the Grandmaster. If the narcissist is the actor, the Machiavellian is the director, named after the political strategist Niccolo Machiavelli. These people don't care about being liked. They care about being effective. To a Machiavellian, you are a chess piece. You might be a pawn or you might be a knight, but you are never a human being with feelings. They are the masters of the long game, the tactic of controlled information. They never tell the whole truth. They give you just enough information to keep you moving in the direction they want. Have you ever had a co-worker who tells you a secret about the boss, only for you to realize later they told everyone that same secret to cause chaos? That's Machiavellianism. They thrive in the gray areas of life. 3. The psychopath, the cold engine. This is the most misunderstood part of the triad. Most psychopaths aren't in prison. They're in corner offices. They lack what you and I take for granted, remorse. When you hurt someone's feelings, you feel a sting in your chest. A psychopath feels nothing. Their heart rate stays at 60 beats per minute while they fire you, break up with you, or lie to your face. The weapon of charm. Because they don't feel real emotions, they become expert observers of your emotions. They study how to look sad, how to look happy, and how to look trustworthy. It's a mask. And because the mask is so perfect, you'll find yourself defending them to others, saying, "Oh, they would never do that. They're so nice." Before we move into the actual dirty tactics, the book describes, I want to check in with you. This is heavy stuff. I want you to take a look at your own life right now. Is there someone in your circle, a friend, a boss, maybe even a partner, who fits one of these descriptions perfectly? You don't have to name them, but if a face just popped into your mind while I was talking, that's your intuition trying to save you. Type the word aware in the comments if you felt that gut feeling before. It's a first step to making sure you're never a victim again. And if this is making sense to you, make sure you've joined our community by hitting that subscribe button. We're going to go even deeper into the 40 tactics next, and you don't want to miss how the shield is built. Let's continue. Transition from who they are to what they do. Understanding the dark triad is like looking at a predator's anatomy. But now, we need to look at their hunting techniques. The book explains that manipulation isn't a one-time event. It's a process. It's like boiling a frog. If you drop a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you put it in cool water and turn up the heat slowly, it stays until it's too late. We are about to look at the water they put us in. We're moving into the covert tactics that bypass your logic and go straight for your lizard brain. Now, let's step into the tall grass. We've talked about who these people are, but now we need to look at exactly how they move. I'm going to break down these tactics one by one, but I want you to do more than just listen. I want you to scan your memories. I want you to look for these patterns in your past, because the moment you recognize a tactic, it loses its power over you forever. Tactic 1, the gaslight, the slow death of truth. This is perhaps the most famous tactic in the book, but it is also the most misunderstood. Most people think gaslighting is just lying. It's not. Lying is a mistake. Gaslighting is a campaign. It starts with the small things. Imagine you're at home and you clearly remember leaving your keys on the kitchen counter. You go to grab them and they're gone. You find them later in the bathroom. When you mention it to your partner, they don't just say, "I moved them." They look at you with a look of genuine fake concern and say, "Honey, you're always misplacing things. Are you feeling okay? You've been so forgetful lately." In that moment, a seed is planted. The manipulator isn't trying to hide the keys. They are trying to hide the truth. The goal of gaslighting is to make you stop trusting your own eyes, your own ears, and your own memory. Over months and years, this builds up. You stop bringing up problems because you're afraid they'll tell you you're crazy or imagining things again. You start checking with the manipulator to see if your own feelings are valid. Once you stop trusting your own mind, the manipulator becomes your only source of reality. They become the judge, the jury, and the executioner of what is true. It is the ultimate form of psychological imprisonment because the bars are made of your own self-doubt. Tactic 2, love bombing, the dopamine hijack. If gaslighting is the stick, love bombing is the carrot. But make no mistake, this carrot is poison. We've all been taught that romance should be sweeping you off your feet. The manipulator uses this cultural myth to bypass your defenses. In the beginning, they don't just like you, they worship you. You'll get 50 texts a day. They'll tell you they've never felt this way about anyone else. They'll plan your whole future together within the first week. It feels incredible, doesn't it? Biologically, your brain is being flooded with dopamine. You are literally getting high on their attention. But here is the dark secret. This isn't about you. This is about acceleration. The manipulator needs to move the relationship so fast that you don't have time to see their red flags. They want to integrate themselves into every part of your life, your friends, your family, your finances, before you realize who they really are. And then once you are fully hooked, the bombing stops. They become cold. They become distant. And because you are now addicted to that early high, you will spend the next year of your life begging, crying, and changing yourself just to get one more hit of that original love. They've turned your own heart into a leash. Tactic 3, the silent treatment, the void of presence. There's a specific kind of pain that comes when someone you love looks right through you as if you don't exist. The book identifies the silent treatment not as a cooling-off period, but as a calculated act of emotional violence. Think about the last time this happened to you. You had a small disagreement, or maybe you finally stood up for yourself. Instead of arguing back, the manipulator simply shuts down. They walk past you in the hallway without a word. They leave your messages on read for 3 days. This isn't just being quiet. It is a way of saying, you do not exist until you behave the way I want you to. Physiologically, our brains process social exclusion in the same way they process a broken bone. It is painful. It creates a state of hypervigilance. You find yourself walking on eggshells, obsessively replaying every word you said. Try and find a mistake you made. Eventually, the pain becomes so great that you break. You go to them, you apologize for things you didn't do, and you beg for their attention. They have won. They have taught you that if you ever disagree with them again, they will take away the one thing you need most, connection. Tactic 4, triangulation, the artificial rivalry. Human beings are competitive by nature, and the manipulator knows how to weaponize that. Triangulation is the act of bringing a third person into a two-person dynamic to create friction and insecurity. Imagine you're doing great at work. Your boss, a master of this tactic, says to you, "You're doing a good job, but have you seen how many sales Mark has made this week? I really wish you had his drive." Suddenly, you aren't focused on your own goals anymore. You're focused on Mark. You feel a twinge of jealousy, a bit of resentment. Now, you're working twice as hard, not for yourself, but to prove you're better than Mark. The manipulator sits back and watches. They do this in relationships, too. They'll mention an attractive coworker or a perfect ex-partner just to keep you off balance. By making you compete for their approval against someone else, they ensure that you stay focused on them and never notice the way they are treating you. They create a hunger in you for their validation that can never be satisfied because there will always be a third person to compare you to. Take a breath with me. If you're hearing these and a specific person's name is flashing in your mind like a neon sign, that is your brain finally waking up. You aren't crazy, and you aren't too sensitive. You've just been reading a script you didn't know you were in. I want to ask you something. Out of these first four, gaslighting, love bombing, silence, or triangulation, which one was the hardest for you to hear? Just type the name of that tactic in the comments. Let's look at how many of us have been through the same thing. You aren't alone in this room. And if you're finding value in this manual for the mind, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. We are just getting started. There are 36 more tactics to cover, and trust me, they get even more subtle from here. Tactic 5, the double bind, the no-win trap. Imagine being in a maze where every path leads back to a wall. That is the double bind. In the book, this is described as a linguistic cage. It's a situation where a manipulator gives you two choices, but both choices result in you being wrong or guilty. Let's look at a real-world example. A partner might say to you, "I really wish you were more independent and took initiative around the house." So, the next day, you decide to surprise them by painting the guest room. When they come home, instead of being happy, they look disappointed and say, "Why didn't you check with me first? You know how much I care about the house." You're being so impulsive. Do you see what happened there? If you do nothing, you're lazy. If you do something, you're impulsive. You are stuck in a mental loop. This creates a state of permanent anxiety. Eventually, the victim becomes paralyzed. They stop making any moves at all because they are terrified of the no-win outcome. This is exactly what the manipulator wants. They want you to stay in a state of constant hesitation, looking to them for permission for every single breath you take. Tactic 6, boundary testing, the inch and the mile. Manipulation is rarely a lightning strike. It's an erosion. The book explains that every predator starts with a test. They need to know how much you will tolerate. Think back to the beginning of a friendship or a job. Maybe they made a joke about your appearance that felt a little too sharp. Or maybe they called you at 10 p.m. on a Sunday for a non-urgent work matter. Most of us, being polite, let it slide. We think, "It's not a big deal. I don't want to be difficult." But to the manipulator, that was a ping. They just sent out a signal to see if there was a wall. Because you didn't push back, they now know your boundary is soft. Next time, they'll show up 20 minutes late. Then they'll borrow money and forget to pay it back. Then they'll start telling you who you can and cannot hang out with. They are measuring your tolerance for disrespect. The book is very clear. The way you respond to the very first minor disrespect determines the entire trajectory of the relationship. If you don't stand up for the inch, they will eventually take the mile. Tactic 7, projection, the mirror of blame. This is one of the most frustrating tactics to experience because it feels like you're arguing with a reflection. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism where a person takes their own unacceptable traits or behaviors and projects them onto someone else. If a manipulator is being secretive or lying, they will suddenly start accusing you of being shady. If they are feeling insecure, they will tell you that you need to work on your confidence. It serves two dark purposes. First, it acts as a smokescreen. While you are busy defending yourself and trying to prove that you aren't lying, you aren't looking at what they're doing. Second, it puts you on the defensive. When you are in defense mode, your brain is less analytical. You're just trying to survive the character attack. The book suggests that if someone's accusations against you seem completely random and out of left field, it's often because they are actually describing themselves. Tactic 8, the Ben Franklin effect, the cognitive trap. This is a subtle, high-level tactic used by master persuaders. It's based on the idea that our brains hate inconsistency. Most of us think that we do favors for people because we like them, but psychological research in this book shows the opposite. We like people because we do favors for them. A manipulator who wants to get close to you won't start by giving you something. They'll start by asking you for a small, insignificant favor. Hey, could you hold my coffee for a second? Or, could you help me understand this one paragraph in the report? When you agree, your subconscious mind has to justify why you helped them. It thinks, well, I'm a helpful person and I wouldn't help someone I didn't like, so I must like this person. By getting you to invest small amounts of time or energy into them, they are literally hacking your brain to make you feel a false sense of friendship and trust. It's a foot-in-the-door technique that paves the way for much larger, more dangerous requests later on. Tactic 9, the faux secret, the false intimacy. Intimacy is built on shared vulnerability. Manipulators know this, so they manufacture it. This tactic involves a manipulator sharing a deep, dark secret with you very early in the relationship. They might tell you about a childhood trauma or a mistake they made in the past. They'll lean in, lower their voice, and say, I've never told anyone this before, but I feel like I can trust you. This triggers a reciprocity loop. Your brain feels a massive pressure to match their vulnerability. You feel honored that they chose you. You feel special. In response, you start sharing your real secrets. But here's the catch. Their secret was likely exaggerated or completely fabricated. It was just a key used to unlock your vault. Now, they have collateral on you. They know your weaknesses, your fears, and your shames, and they will use that information to pull your strings for the rest of the relationship. Tactic 10, generalization, the identity attack. When a healthy person has a conflict, they talk about the action. They say, it hurt my feelings when you forgot our anniversary. A manipulator, however, attacks the identity. They use words like always and never. They'll say, you're always so selfish, or you never think about anyone but yourself. Do you see the difference? You can fix a forgotten anniversary. You can't fix being a selfish person. By generalizing your mistakes, they force you into a state of character defense. You stop arguing about the actual problem and start trying to prove that you are a good person. The moment you start trying to prove your worth to a manipulator, the argument is over. They have already won. They have successfully shifted the focus from their behavior to your flawed character. We've covered 10 of the 40 tactics. Just 10, and already you might be feeling a bit exhausted. That's because your brain is doing the heavy lifting of reevaluating your life. I want to ask you a very important question. As we've gone through these, have you realized that you might be using one of these tactics yourself without knowing it? Maybe you've used a silent treatment when you were hurt, or maybe you've used a guilt trip to get your way. It takes a lot of soul to admit that you're here not just to spot others, but to become a better version of yourself. We aren't just learning to hide from predators. We're learning to be more conscious humans. Now, we are moving into the social engineering phase. How manipulators control not just your mind, but your entire environment and your perception of authority. We are going to stop here, not because the lesson is finished, but because your mind needs a moment to settle. For the last few minutes, we have deconstructed the first 10 ways a predator enters your mind. If a specific face or a name has been flashing in your head this entire time, listen to that. That is your intuition finally waking up. You aren't crazy, and you aren't too sensitive. You've just been reading from a script you didn't know you were in. You've finally seen the strings. Now, it's time to learn how to cut them. In the second half of this video, we move from the internal to the external. We are diving into social engineering, how manipulators use the world around you to trap you. We'll cover the remaining 30 tactics, from the digital dark arts to the ultimate shield that makes you completely untouchable. The second half of your armor is waiting. I've pinned the link to part 2 in the comments below. Take a breath, process what you've just heard, and meet me there to finish what we started. The puppet show is over. I'll see you in the next video.